Okay, welcome again once more for the computer lessons. Okay, we are looking at the major components of a computer. I am your tutor, Mr. Mudenda, and welcome back once more. Okay, so we are looking at the major components of a computer. Okay, so maybe before we dive in the main topic of this don't know if I would call it a webinar or yeah, I think it's a webinar. Yes. So before we dive much into the main major components of a computer, others might want to ask questions of what is a computer. Okay, what is a computer? Okay, what is a computer? So a computer it is mostly defined as an electronic device or rather machine which does four operations. And those operations include number one, we are talking about inputting data, of which that data later on must be processed. And after that data is processed, it must be either stored or it must be outputted. Okay, it must be outputted. Okay, so that is the definition of a computer. That is what a computer is. But in this case, just to simplify all that long definition, I'll say a computer, okay, a computer is equal to hardware plus, okay, computer is equal to hardware plus software. Yeah, computer is equal to hardware plus software. Hardware plus software. So a computer is equal to hardware plus software. A computer is equal to hardware plus software. By having this definition here, it just summarizes everything about a computer being an input device, a computer processing, a computer restoring data, a computer uh, outputting information, which has data, of course, which has been processed, which is, in other words, information. This is just the greatest summary of what the definition of a computer is, so to say. Okay, but then today's lessons we are talking about the major components of a computer. Okay, now in the definition of what a computer is, okay, I'm sure you heard me say a computer is number one, an input. It is an electronic device which is used to number one input. Okay, so a computer is categorized as number one, an input device. I'm sure we know what a component is. A component is just a small part of a whole which is used to help that whole thing to achieve a particular purpose. So one of the major components of a computer is input. But then what is an input? Okay, so we say these are devices used to enter, okay, to enter data, of course, into the computer system, into the computer system. Okay, that input devices, these are devices used to enter. I've underlined this word, it means a lot. To enter data into the computer system. Okay, now we have to know also what are some of the examples of input devices. Okay, examples. Number one. For the examples, I'll just list them as many as I can, but I'll not dive much to talk about each function of each of the following of these examples of these input devices as an example. Okay, we have one, the common input device that is used is the keyboard. We have the mouse. Okay, we have a joystick. Okay, we also have can say the touch screen. I think, yeah, touch screen. Touch screen. Okay, we have also the touch screen here. Touch screen. Okay. Though a touch screen is not just an input device, it is an input-output device. I will explain and give more examples in my next webinar about the input-output devices. Okay, so a touch screen is not just an input device, but it is also an input-output device. Okay, also the touch screen. Apart from the touch screen, we can also talk about the photocopier. Okay, and many others. A photocopier is also an input-output device. It's not just an input device. No, it is not just an input device. There are so many other examples that we can mention under the input device. So I've just listed a few examples of the input devices which are especially commonly used. Okay. So the second component of a computer, we are going to talk about, it is the processor. It is the processor. Okay? A processor can be defined using so many ways. Okay? But for the sake of the level that I am teaching, for them to understand, I would just say a processor is a device as well. This is a device. This is a device which is used this is a device which is used to convert. Okay, this is a device which is used to convert human language to machine language. Okay, to machine language. So we are saying the processor, this is a device which is used to convert human language to machine language by by the help of the by the help of the four operators. By the help of the four operators, and those operators, it's plus, minus, division, and also multiplication. Okay, so we are saying that the processor, this is a device which is used to convert human language to machine language by the help of the four operators, and those operators we're talking about, it's plus, minus, division, and also multiplication there. Okay, or if at all we can go into a typical kind of defining what a processor is, I would say a processor, it is a programmable, okay, register based, clock driven machine, or rather device, which is used to convert human language into what we call machine language, and vice versa. Okay, and vice versa. That is just at least I can say a typical kind of defining what a processor is. Okay, so there are also so many examples of what we call processors that we can give here. But looking at the level of the grade 9s, I will not dive into that direction. But there are so many examples of processors that we can list down there. Okay, so from here, I'll go straight to talk about the third component of a computer. The third component of a computer system. The third component of a computer system. The third component of a computer system. Okay, so number three, the component of a computer is also what we call storage. Okay, now a computer is composed of a storage device. Okay, this storage device, we are just talking about the memory of the computer. The memory of the computer, where that data which is being keyed in the computer is kept. So therefore we say storage, these are devices, these are computer devices, which are used to keep data, okay, awaiting output. Okay, so storage, these are computer devices which are used to keep data awaiting, not await, but awaiting output. It means that information, or that the data which is being stored into the computer, it is there so that at some point later on, when it is needed, it can still be used either by printing it out, it can still be used either by editing it, it can still be used either by perhaps someone wants to to just read it on the monitor. Okay, so this is the third component of the computer system. Examples. Okay, so I'll just list down the examples of these storage devices. Okay, so I'll say the hard disk drive. So HDD, I'm just talking about the hard disk drive. Okay, then we have the optical. Okay, ODD, optical disk drive. And now these, when I say optical disk drives, these may be also the categories, especially for optical. When I say optical, there are so many examples that I can give under optical, which means when I say optical disk drives, these are just drives which uses light. Optical simply means light. These drives, they use light to store data. Okay, so I can talk about the memory card. Okay, also SIM card, flash. Okay, flash and many others. Hard disk drive, optical disk drive, memory card, SIM card, flash drive, and many others. And many others. Okay, and many more others. So these are just some of the examples of the storage devices, those devices that you know which can keep data for future use. Okay, so I wind up my lesson by talking about the last, okay, the last component of a computer. 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 So the last component of a computer, it is the output. Now, what is this output device? What is this output device? We are saying these are devices which are used. Okay, came down. These are devices which are used to display okay, to display or show the information from the computer. Okay, from the computer system. So output devices, these are devices which are used to display or show the information from the system. This system, we are talking about a computer, because anything which has got components, it is referred to as a system. So in case you may come across a question which is saying, why is a computer referred to as a system? So it is referred to as a system because it works with so many different components as you have seen them. Okay. So what are some of the examples of output devices? Okay, so we have number one, the common. It is what we call the screen. The screen, or rather, other people would say the TV. It's not, yeah, it's not really the TV, but of course, you may say it so. That is the monitor. Okay, so we can say the monitor. Okay, the speakers. The speakers also are output devices in the way that the sound which is being produced from the speakers, it is a soft copy sound. Hence, speakers are therefore one of the examples of output devices. We can also talk about a photocopier. Remember, I said a photocopier can be an output or an input device. Okay, we can also talk about a touch screen again. Touch screen, and many others to mention but a few. Okay, so take note of these points that I will not even write down here. So these computer components, in grade 8, grade 9, mostly they say they are peripheral devices. These are the peripheral devices. The peripheral devices are categorized into 4 major groups, or rather components. These components, I said, they are also called peripheral devices. Number 1, we have what we call the input peripheral devices. We have what we call the processor. We also have the storage as well as the output. Okay, so these are peripheral devices, devices which are connected to the CPU in order to achieve a specific function. All right, so thank you so much. May you catch up with me again in the next video, as we are going to continue talking about more and more in computer studies in order for you to be extremely good in computer studies. Always subscribe and also follow my channel. Thank you.